Today is Monday, May 6, 2019. Welcome to this edition of Roland Martin Unfiltered, broadcasting from Los Angeles, site of the 12th annual George Lopez Celebrity Golf Classic, benefiting kids affected by kidney disease. We'll be hearing today from the likes of Don Cheadle, Chris Spencer, also Jeffrey Osborne, Anthony Anderson, and of course George Lopez. Still got some news headlines. Avis Jones-DeWeaver will have those for us. Folks, it is time to bring the funk. Roland Martin Unfiltered from L.A.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. Yeah, it's on go, y'all. Yeah, it's Roland Martin.
We're here at the 12th annual George Lopez Celebrity Golf Tournament here with the host, George Lopez. So for folks who don't know, I mean, what this foundation does, when you see these young kids, people think, oh, yeah, we're out here having fun. But this is also about the kids who you help who are affected by kidney disease.
You know, there's a couple of great stories. I saw a kid that probably looked like he must have been 12, you know, and when he says, I want to be a doctor. And I was like, oh, when you grow up? And he goes, how old do you think I am? And I said, 12? He was 22. And he looked 12, and he doesn't have kidneys. He doesn't urinate. He does it through a machine that he's connected to. So when you see a kid who is optimistic and his health is not very good, it inspires you to want to keep helping kids. I saw this little girl who was very sick and put a wristband on me. And she said, as long as you're wearing this, you'll never be sick. You know, so it's wild to see kids that are not well. A lot of times these kids are the ones in their family that aren't sick or the ones in the school, so they feel a little bit removed from everybody else. And that's what we did, and that's what my commitment to this foundation is helping. I'm going to start crying.
And they go to camp, and they have a great time, and I've got a chance to meet them. We have the award ceremony afterwards, and they're just enthusiastic just for being able to live a life and have fun.
Yeah, you know, the kids go to camp, and we also do a camp of their parents as well can come to the camp. The Painted Turtle, who, you know, a hole-in-the-wall gang, Mr. Paul Newman, the great Paul Newman, I met back east at a tournament, and his commitment to, you know, through all the Newman products that help all charity, that I decided to go and send these kids to the hole-in-the-wall camp, but it's called Painted Turtle out here. And it's an amazing camp. And every kid that goes there, if he needs medical treatment, every treatment that a child would need is at the camp, so they don't have to leave that camp.
Well, see, that's why every year I tell them point blank that, tell George, every Sunday and Monday, 1st in May, I'm going to be here, always be this man, to support you and support these kids.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And the cart that we are in, the guy, tell him about this cart.
There is an incredible artist who paints all around the world. His name is Alec Monopoly. He never allows you to see his face. He was a graffiti artist, started with graffiti artists during the crash in 2007-8. He started painting monopolies as a sign of financial distress in this country, and he just caught on as an artist. And he hand painted this golf cart. It's one of a kind, and it's got my sayings, it's got my colors, and I as a prince, every year I allow the king to use it.
So I dropped the cart. So it's an irregular golf tournament because
thing be bumping too. This thing bumps mad sounds, man.
Right, they can hear this sucker in Nevada and Idaho.
It's incredible. You do right. Best music that is played at my tournament is played from Roland Martin's piece. We're gonna go start the tournament. I think Eva Longoria hits the first ball.
Well, we definitely got to see that.
As tradition holds, the first ceremonial tee shot will be hit by someone we all know and the world loves. If you would please put your hands together for the very incredibly beautiful and talented and supporter of kids all around the world, Eva Longoria.
good to see you here.
You too, likewise.
It is always an interesting tournament.
No doubt.
And I tell people all the time, people ask me, oh man, how is George Lopez golf tournament? I said, it's very colorful.
Very colorful. If you remember it, it's an amazing thing. You don't always remember it. You always remember it.
I always remember it because I don't drink. And,
we don't always remember it.
Right. And I also always have video evidence and proof.
Correct.
So when folks like, what the hell happened? Oh no, we had a ball.
Yeah.
Press play.
Yeah, you can show it. Yeah. I don't have that luxury. I get home and wifey was like, how was it? I'm like, I think it was okay.
Now the first year, it had rained big time, and they made us walk.
Yeah.
And that's
bad.
That was rough.
That's real rough. I mean, I don't walk when it's nice weather outside. You gotta walk in this mud. I felt like it was a prank.
Yeah. I literally said, "Oh no, we're driving," and I got you because I was interviewing you. He went, "No, I think we're actually walking."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Serious?"
Like, yeah. Like, well, let me put this camera away.
Right. I'm like,
I got
camera, I got band,
yeah,
I said, I got 3-4 cameras,
Yeah, no,
all this sort of stuff. So here's the deal. So obviously, it's fun and stuff along those lines. But we always correspond on social media, and you have no problem letting folks know how you feel about political issues and things along those lines. And then I love it when people try to come at you as if I'm not gonna watch your stuff now because of your opinion.
Yeah, that's great. I'm like, you weren't a fan to begin with. You know what I mean? It's like if you're gonna dip off because of someone has a different opinion about how you feel about politics, how you feel about race relations, what have you, I don't really count that as a real fan. You know what I mean? So I'm cool with people expressing their, you want to vote with your dollar. That's fine. I don't really mind that. You know, it's not required that everybody be down with what I think or down with what I put out into the world. And that's what we have. We have the right to express ourselves. Correct? Our First Amendment.
Now I use this a lot of time in my speeches, and it is not a diss at all on George Clooney or Brad Pitt or guys like that. But I always say, I said it drives me crazy when I know the stuff that you've done on the continent of Africa and other places, and it's as if for mainstream folks, as if you don't even exist. And I always say, guys, look, there are other people who are doing some amazing things who are black, other than a couple of white guys. And again, not a diss on them, but that's also why I say, well, our media matters, because that's important to be highlighted, not just you in the movie, but literally the work that you do helping folks around the globe.
Well, that's why I'm, always appreciative of what you do and how you show up for us and how you make sure that you put us on and people make people aware of those things. Because it's all fun. The Tinseltown and all this stuff is fun, but really, when you have this platform and you are able to bring attention to the people that need it and the people who've been doing the work long before we got into the space, long before I was a part of that. That's what's important, and that's when you really are able to use your celebrity for what it's good. What's up, champ? How you doing, bro?
Absolutely. What's going on? What's going on? Of course, Oscar De La Hoya right there. So we're just sitting there chatting. Just walks by. But again, that to me, that really is important, because also the public needs to know and understand that that the work that you do, when you go out and you are in these countries and you're seeing these young folks and you're talking with these presidents and these other leaders, that's also important on the continent, because this is, of course, the year of return, 400 years. There's 29 Africans arriving in Virginia. And folks there also want to see us to say we need to have a relationship, a connection, and working together.
Yeah, and again, that's why I'm always thankful of what you do and that you make that a priority, because we do need to show up in that way, and we do need to take advantage of what we have and try to come together and create a stronger voice. We always are stronger, together, and always have more impact with unity. So that's definitely the goal.
Don Cheadle, brother, always good seeing you, man.
Come on,
always love your work, and we're gonna have a little fun out here.
Yeah, let's do it.
In our ninth circle.
Yeah, we got a big group, bro. We got a big group.
It was like a wedding group.
If we can't win this year with all the erasers on our team, then we don't deserve to win.
All right, baby. See you out there. All right. Again, folks, that's Don Cheadle. You, of course, be sure to support him on social media and all projects that he has covered up as well. All right, folks, right now I'm going to toss this thing back to the studio. Avis Jones-DeWeaver, she's there with today's headlines. Avis, take it away.
Thanks, Roland. In today's news, the new National Rifle Association President Carolyn Meadows has dismissed Representative Lucy McBath's congressional win, saying it was because of her minority status. She says, quote, "It is wrong to say, like McBath said, that the reason she won was because of her anti-gun stance. That didn't have anything to do with it. It had to do with being a minority female," end quote. She completely ignored the fact that McBath ran on a platform inspired by the shooting of her son, Jordan Davis, who was killed for playing his music too loud. Representative McBath fired back on Twitter saying, "Hi, NRA, it's time we clear something up. I won this race because after my son was senselessly murdered in 2012, I stood up to do something about it. I knew it was the time to fight back." Following up on a story we reported on Friday, Tennessee House Speaker Glenn Casada's top aide admits to using cocaine in the legislative office building before he became chief of staff. This comes just days after it was revealed that top aide Cade Cothran sent racist text messages that included racial slurs and other derogatory remarks about African Americans. Speaker Casada says he knew about the drug use and he's standing by his chief of staff. We'll keep you posted on this story. In Georgia, Mayor Teresa Kennerly of Houston is under fire for allegedly withholding a job candidate for consideration for city administrator because he's black. Houston is nearly an all-white community 50 miles outside Atlanta, and the mayor reportedly told a member of city council that she pulled the resume of Keith Henry from a packet of 4 finalists because he's black, and the city isn't ready for this. Mayor Kennerly denies making that statement. And beauty pageant history has been made. For the first time, Miss America, Miss Teen USA, and Miss USA are all black women. Chelsea Christ won the Miss USA contest, Kaylee Garris won Miss Teen USA, and Nia Franklin was crowned as the 2019 Miss America in September. We've come a long way since Vanessa Williams back when she won Miss America back in 1984. And finally, there's a new black baby in the kingdom. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex, also known as Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, welcomed their first child today. A little boy and is the first interracial baby in the British monarch's history. This newborn is 7th in line to the British throne behind Prince Harry. Congratulations to the Duke and Duchess. Now let's go back to Roland at the George Lopez Golf Classic.
All right, it's time for us to go on out there. Let me ask you real quick here, because a couple of quick questions. It's always good to see you here at the George Lopez Golf Tournament. But before I get to the George stuff, we got blackish, we got grownish. What's the new with mixish?
It's something. Bowish, mixed-ish.
I mean, but you also a show creator. So that also means that you're now getting multiple show checks?
Well, I am getting multiple show checks. I have to correct you. I'm not creator, just the EP.
Okay, got it.
It's the EP. But yeah, multiple checks.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
And so you thinking, are you right now thinking of other issues that you can do?
Oh, yes.
I mean, because you're about to turn into the Dick Wolf. You know, it's like
every ish that's out there, I want to have a part of.
Like all those Law and Orders.
Yes. Yeah, there were 3, and we got 3.
I think there were like 8 different Law and Orders.
Well, there was SVU, there was Criminal Intent, and there was the mothership that I was on, Law and Order.
No, was it? Because it was another one, like 3 or 4.
Right. And then the LA, Law and Order LA.
It was just, so do you and Kenyon sit around and go, okay, maybe we can do, just come up with different issues.
You know, we did, but before Blackish was on the air, we sat up and talked about how we wanted it to go. And as who said this in the movie? I love it when the plan comes together. Jack Nicholson.
Absolutely.
I love it when the plan comes
together. But see, well, here's what I love, because you and I talked about this. All of the people, who the hell is this Blackish? They were dogging the name, dogging the show, hadn't seen nothing.
Right.
And now you working on a third show.
Hadn't seen any content and was taking the title out of context. But you know, you look at us now, 6 seasons in, 2 spinoffs after the original, so can't complain, baby.
Also, we got to talk about my namesake, my fictitious daughter, Marseille Martin.
Yeah.
Dude, executive producer. The movie Little was absolutely hilarious. Again, giving Next Generation a shot. Now she's doing her thing.
Yes, I mean, I knew she was special when, she came into the room to read for the show. Didn't know how special she was, but I knew she was special. And, and look at what she's doing right now. The youngest executive producer in the history of Hollywood, a young black girl from Dallas, from LA by way of Dallas. So, I'm happy for her. I told her, first episode, first season, that she was going to take care of me when I got older. And I'm holding her to it. And of course, your boy signs his major deal with Netflix. First text I sent him was, "Can I hold something?" No wonder he told me no when I sent him the same text. You beat me to it.
Yes, I was real quick. I'm like, you signed a $100 million deal with Netflix. A black person will say, can you let me hold something? Mr. Barris.
Yes.
I can't call him the first name, Mr. Barris.
Hold on 1 second. How you doing, baby?
All right, y'all. Another one of the folks who regularly plays, Andy Garcia here. Andy, because you won the Pebble Beach, right? Did y'all win that?
I did win it, yeah, many years ago.
Yeah, and
97, yeah.
and oh no, and he comes out here, he's got the whole, and he picks his spot. He goes to the whole thing.
He's a professional.
Oh yeah, he's a professional now.
He's a professional.
Yeah.
He's a professional
How's
now.
your back, man? You good?
Back's good.
Okay.
Elbows fucked. Back's good.
Oh, one goes, the other one goes. Hey,
So again, folks, look, we gotta go tee off.
go.
Man, it's always good.
Oh, I bet you are. Me too.
Always good to see you, man.
Always good to see you,
Keep
baby.
doing your thing. Anthony Anderson, right here, Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
What's going on?
You got your rocket stuff.
I gotta represent. All right, y'all. So joining us right now, folks, Roland Martin Unfiltered, Jeffrey Osborne. Yes, I got the rocket stuff. So how many years now have you sang the national anthem to open the Lakers season?
Well, I did it 32 years straight.
32 years straight.
And I haven't done it in the last few years.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I had a little run-in with the organization. They kind of messed me up with the Kobe game.
Right.
So Kobe's retiring, so I go to him and I said, I always do it for you, put my schedule aside. I want to do Kobe's last game because I did his very first game. I said,
Gotcha.
Okay. So it came down to 2 weeks before, and I called. I said, I didn't get the call. They said, whoa, we'll let you know in a minute. Then I look at the Bleacher Report, and it says, Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers performing Flea, the bass player for the Red Hot Chili Peppers. That's who performed the anthem. So they said, I hope you're not upset and this and that. And I said, no, I'm not upset. Just don't never call me again. And so,
wow.
And I told myself, because I always put myself aside to do it.
Right.
And I have a history with the Lakers.
Yes.
And this easy to give it to this guy. So I don't know what it was about. Kobe thought I was doing it. I had talked to Kobe. Everybody thought I was doing it, and I didn't do it. So I talked to Magic. I said, well, maybe I'm overreacting. He said, no, you're not overreacting. He said, you should have got that game. And it was the biggest game I've ever seen, because I've done the championship game.
Right, absolutely.
That game was incredible. So I haven't done it. I did it when Magic became the president. He said, man, come back and just do it for me. And I did it then. But I haven't. But I don't do it anymore regular.
Wow. Now you still cheer for him?
I still love the Lakers.
Right.
I'll always love the Lakers.
So basically, Kobe retired. So they ain't made the playoffs since you stopped doing it.
Yeah, they hadn't made the playoffs while I was doing it.
Oh,
for a while.
gotcha. Well, see, somebody asked me, they were like, why you wearing your Rocket stuff? I said, I love to sit here and stick it to LA fans. Like last year, my Astros beat the Dodgers. And so I had all my
stuff on.
Yeah, so this year I said, I'm going to go ahead and wear the Rocket stuff.
There you go.
I got to.
They pulled it off last night before last.
Finally decided to go to the basket and go old school basketball. So I take out them damn long three-pointers.
It's going to be tough, though, getting by those Warriors.
Yeah, but, bottom line
I
is
think they're the only team that could.
Oh, I agree.
I think they're the only team that could.
Yeah, I don't think Portland and Denver can do it.
No.
I don't think they can do it.
No.
They can do it.
Yeah.
Now you're here, of course, just like I am every year, and we always do your classic as well. And I'm telling y'all,
this guy's always at my classic.
And we have a great time. So what would you say is the difference between George's tournament and yours?
Well, the biggest difference is mine is in Rhode Island.
Right.
So it's harder to get people to travel 3,000 miles.
Okay, let me have to say this here. What Jeffrey's really said, he has to import black people.
I gotta fly people.
You've got to import black people.
George just has to fly you. I got to fly like 30, 40 more
fly
people.
me, I fly myself. But he got black people he can draw from. Jeffrey lives all right. The population of Rhode Island increases every August at the Jeffrey Osborne Classic. But this year's in July. I got the email from your dog.
Yeah, and it's back in Rhode Island.
Oh, really?
It's not at Foxwoods this year.
Okay.
Yeah. We went back. Foxwoods had a big, the CEO passed.
Oh.
And I had a 2-year contract with them, and he passed, and then they turned it over to a tribal member, and the tribal member is trying to cut money to save the tribe. See, that's what happens.
Got it.
They shouldn't have him.
So you're going back
I'm bringing it back to Rhode Island. I have more support in Rhode Island anyway.
And of course, it was that's where you're from.
That's where I'm from.
That's home as well.
And all the charities are from Rhode Island still.
Gotcha.
So I'm going to bring it back to Rhode Island.
And that's the thing that people don't realize. One of the reasons, again, people watch it, they may be thinking, well, we're just talking about, golf with it. But the reality is, you have kids who are directly impacted by the money raised from this tournament and your tournament as well.
Right, exactly. And that's what it's all about. It's about, I feel better going home and giving back rather than being here. And so everybody has a tournament in LA. So for me to go back home, it definitely has more impact for me. And it's nice to be able to give back. It's something my mama taught me.
And last year, we did not have the softball tournament because you literally were causing a whole bunch of people to have to go to rehab.
There were some injuries.
Yeah, some. Let's see, James Worthy, Johnny Gill. Johnny pulled his ass muscle.
Yeah, he did.
And he keeps trying to say he didn't.
Oh, no, he
did. But we were all there.
No,
and you had to call the doctor.
I had to take the doctor.
Yeah, Johnny Gill pulled his right ass muscle.
Yes, he did.
Because he wouldn't stretch before the softball.
Right, exactly.
So now, what, is the bowling?
No, we did bowling last year. We're not going to do it anymore. We're just going to have the comedy show this year.
Right.
Comedy show and then the
He trying to make sure nobody get injured.
Yeah,
because they probably injured shoulders playing bowling. They're doing bowling as well. Now, follow you on Instagram. You did all kind of touring, but did you also drop a new project?
It's been a year almost now since the new project was out. Right? It's called Worth It All.
Worth It All?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I got to ask you this, and this will be the last question here. Is it hard, though, to have so many hits and your fan base wants to hear just the hits, but you're still an artist who wants to put out stuff? Like the OJs just dropped their last studio album, and it's a new album, and so an artist, you still got stuff that you want to do that's new.
That's right. But I always feel that doing too much new stuff loses an audience, because they came to hear your hits. So I hate to go to a show and some artist does their whole new album.
No, you're right.
So I may do 1, 2 at the most from the new album, but I try to give people what they came for. They came to hear the hits.
All right. Jeffrey Osborne, always good to see you, baby.
Oh,
I mean, that was fun out here.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we'll do the woo-woo out there. Appreciate it, baby.
All right, now.
Yeah, Jeffrey Osborne there, folks. Again, lots of folks who are here at the George Lopez 12th Annual Celebrity Golf Classic. Going to go to another break right now, and we'll be back right here. Roland Martin Unfiltered. Back in a moment. Roland Martin Unfiltered, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. First and foremost, this is what I try to explain to people that's a little bit different about this tournament. Normally when you play golf tournaments, you have 4 to 5 people in a group.
Right.
He knows. This is, you might have 7, 8, 9.
You might see less people in Earth, Wind, and Fire than in these golf groups.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's a little different about this
Last time you played with George, you were in the first group, I remember.
Yeah, and it was a 9-some.
At least. Yeah.
And we added a couple of people.
Plus the photographers and the reporters that was following y'all, so it was a lot. Yeah.
But the actual number of players, and then what gets me is, so do you recall ever what your team shot in this tournament?
Never. I know we've never won.
I mean, they keep asking me, and I'm going, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because this is not actually about
winning. No, it's about the camaraderie, the food, the after party.
Right.
And getting to see people who are on TV that you don't get to see. I get to see this dude 2 or 3 times a year, so it's great that, you know, he brings this tournament. He has this tournament. He gets to bring all of us together.
And definitely get to hang out. And then when you talk about, of course, the other difference is normally golf is quiet.
Oh, yeah.
Normally it's shh, hush. Not here.
No.
It's
don't expect it.
No, it's extremely loud.
It should be extremely loud golf. It should be extreme golf.
Now let me tell y'all something. So I was here. I guess it was about a year and a half ago, and Chris, Buddy Lewis, myself, we decided to go play golf.
Yeah.
And I had the tunes going, and let's just say I was playing some music.
Let me tell the story so you don't have to brag about yourself, because I know you do that all day. So this guy is from the Alpha fraternity, Phi Alpha, and Buddy Lewis is Omega Psi Phi. He wears purple and gold, and his head covers a dog, and he might even eat dog food. That's how heavily he's invested into this. So Atomic Dog came on Roland speakers, and Roland told him he can out hop
Right.
Buddy Lewis. It was embarrassing.
Actually, no. Chris dared me to play Atomic Dog.
Yes, because I know Buddy could do it, but I know Buddy.
And I went.
Buddy has torn at least 3 ACLs hopping.
And I went, oh, seriously?
So we murdered him. And the thing is, he's twinkle toes. He's like, do you remember that episode of Fred Flintstone when he was on the drugs? He's really light on his feet, so to see him doing it, I was like, you might have joined the wrong Fred. You were supposed to be a Q.
But the other thing, though, is that, of course, being from Houston, I got Dirty South, got blues. I was playing some stuff.
My God, yes.
See, that was the story
I had never heard this stuff. I had never heard. What'd you put me on to?
Chris was like,
what's the dude?
They don't play this up here.
The side chick song.
My side piece.
What's the song called?
My side piece.
Well, how's it go? He was playing these blues. You're so funny.
I left home to get my side piece. Chris was like,
I was like, yo, play another one. Play another one. They was playing golf. I was on his iPhone going, I've never heard of this stuff.
Chris, they don't play that up here.
They don't play that, yeah.
They don't play that here.
KJLH don't play nothing about side pieces.
We were going song and song.
So
and Chris,
blues, you put me on to?
Chris was Shazamming everything.
I had never heard this stuff before, but I play it now.
There you go. There you go.
My wife
was like, what?
She don't really like the side piece song too much, so I had to.
So you had to listen to that in the car?
Yeah, I had to listen. That's just for me.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's a jam though.
Oh my God! Listen, if you ever do a comedy special, you got to come out the side piece.
I mean, it's a jam.
It's fantastic.
It's a jam.
Yeah, it is.
All right, folks, we got to go check in and get ready. Man, always good to see you.
How about the Rockets?
First of all, I did an interview earlier, and I said, after the first 2 games, we lost. I'm like, see what happens when you take it to the hole, stop jacking 3-pointers. You actually, old school basketball.
Well, what happens is, if you drive, then they're going to give you the jumper. And if you shoot jumpers, they're going to let you drive. But if you refuse to drive, they're going to say, he's off, let him shoot.
Right. And if you keep missing, guess what? Long rebounds, fast breaks.
And especially against them.
Right.
Yeah.
So they changed it up. Yeah. Went old school in game 3, won. I'm just saying, I literally text Mark Jackson when he's commenting in the game like, yo, damn it, can they take it to the hole? And here's why I do that, because folks sit here and go, man, how you be sitting and texting Charles or Kenny? And I'm like, because Negroes text me when I'm on television. Trump ain't, look, say this.
Right. I'm one of them.
So my deal is like, if you're going to hit me, I'm going to hit you. All right, y'all. Chris, we about to go get ready. Of course, that's another one of them. I forgot that little fraternity you in. So, all right, Chris. All right, folks. Again, we're here at the George Lopez 12th Annual Celebrity Golf Classic. Got to go to a break right now. I'll be back. Roland Martin Unfiltered. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. All right, John, so let's talk about Camelot's End. So for a lot of people who are not political junkies, you know, look, they know Carter was president, then, of course, ran against Reagan. He lost, and people said Carter was a horrible president. And so what really were you trying to achieve with this book?
You know, I did not, Roland, set out to write this book to tell a lesson, to like impart some, you know, to impart some lesson to people. I really was attracted to it because I thought it was a great story. And I know that sounds maybe a little hokey, but I was born in '77, 3 years before all this went down. And I heard about this story back in 2013. I was at a Democratic meeting here in D.C. I ran into two operatives who were at the convention in 1980, which is the photo on the cover. And they tell me the story about, hey, Jimmy Carter, on the last night of the convention, was chasing a drunk Ted Kennedy around the stage on live national television.
Right.
And I said, really? That happened? And so it was just a series of moments where I just thought, wow, that really happened. And actually, a few minutes after I heard that story, I ran into Anita Dunn, who worked she was a young person in the Carter White House at that time, went on to become an advisor to Obama. And she told me about how this whole fight divided the Democrats throughout the 1980s and into the 90s. And it was, so I thought, okay, there's a lot of really interesting stuff there that we don't know about 1980 or we don't focus on because everybody just talks about Ronald Reagan.
Right.
And there's some historical scope there. And as I got into it, I realized, okay, 1980 was the point at which the Democratic coalition that had kept them in power as the dominant party since 1932 and the New Deal until basically 1980. That's when it really kind of finally fractured because the Democrats lost the South pretty much for good. I mean, Clinton won it back some in the 90s, but that coalition never came back.
Well, what was interesting, though, but not even just focused on 1980, was as I was reading this book, people also don't quite understand that here you had Carter, who runs for president from the Deep South.
Yeah.
You're just coming out of the Black Freedom Movement, the Civil Rights Movement.
Yeah.
And so what really, which I had not really understood before, was Carter appealing to racists, appealing to that George Wallace wing of the party to ensure that he got elected governor, but then also having to still appeal to them to be elected president.
Yeah. Yeah, so in 1966, he runs for governor and loses. He ran as a moderate on race in that year, and 4 years later, he had learned his lesson. And in 1970, he runs for governor of Georgia and runs a campaign that in some ways overtly appeals to the George Wallace white supremacist vote, and in other ways, he kind of looks the other way, as some of his operatives put out flyers showing Sanders, his opponent in the Democratic primary, getting champagne poured over his head by a black member of the Atlanta Hawks. And Sanders himself, who was the former governor, said, you know, this is them trying to make me look like I love African Americans. And he didn't use the word African Americans. And so, you know, what's really interesting about the difference between 66 and 70 is the fact that Carter had a spiritual awakening in the wake of 1966. He spent time knocking on doors and proselytizing on behalf of a Baptist church up in Massachusetts, and had basically a born-again Christian experience during that time, while he was also reading Christian philosopher Reinhold Niebuhr, who allowed him to kind of wed a realpolitik, pragmatic lens to this sense of I am divinely sort of, you know, sent out to be a politician. There's a lot there that I'm talking about, and I'm going to get to the presidential in a minute, but I think what you have there is that he was willing to look past some of the ugly elements of his 1970 campaign on race by seeing himself as somebody who was on a mission from God in some ways.
But it speaks to, though, this reality of our politics, that that many of these candidates could not run as purists, could not run as fully embracing a white Southerner. fully embracing the issue of civil rights. It's not like in Jimmy Carter's history, he was this bigoted man who joined the Klan.
Right.
That wasn't the whole deal.
Right.
But in essence, he had to make a deal with the devil.
That's right.
That if I want to ascend to higher office, I'm It's going to be another white guy who will.
If I don't, there will be a real racist who's the governor. And in fact, when Carter wins this election, there are reports he was not happy with the campaign that he had to run. He was a little depressed about it. And he went on to give a speech in his inaugural address where he said the time for racial division. I can't remember the exact phrase he used. Do you remember it? But he basically said that the time for racial white superiority is over.
And then all of a sudden, the racists were going like, yo, dude, what the hell?
Exactly.
We just voted for you.
So he pulled a bait and switch on the white supremacists. There's a lot of moral complexity here to the idea of running a campaign that is doing things that are ugly in order to, in some ways, defeat those elements. And when you think of Jimmy Carter today,
people think of quiet, soft, meek, Habitat for Humanity, him still teaching Bible study. But the reality is, I mean, this was a hardcore, I'm going to get what I want politician.
Oh, yeah. There were people that said, don't pay attention to that smile. That smile does not mean a thing. Because I think it's helpful to remember, he grew up in rural Georgia, southwest Georgia. He grew up on a farm. His dad was a successful farmer, but they grew up without toilet paper. They grew up without running water and electricity until he was about 10 or 12 years old. And he just willed himself to the Naval Academy. He willed himself up the chain in the Navy, and he willed himself into the state Senate. He had to overcome some incredible barriers just to even get into the state Senate in Georgia, and then he became governor, all by just sheer force of will. And when you add in the stuff that he incorporated into his worldview through Reinhold Niebuhr and that philosophy, you have iron will and then a sense of divine mandate. And the chapter on Hunter S. Thompson, where he talks about Carter giving a populist speech, where this is as governor after he's elected. He's telling the establishment in Georgia, basically, when Martin Luther King came here, you didn't embrace him. You viewed him as a disgrace and as horrible. That was a speech that Hunter S. Thompson then took and played for people around the country as an example of how, when Carter wanted to be a hard-edged politician, tough as nails, he could do it.
Now, half his book is Jimmy Carter, the other half is Senator Ted Kennedy. And I saw the movie Chappaquiddick. I read other books as well. But reading this was the first time I really, in reading it, got an understanding where Ted Kennedy had no clue why in the hell he was running for president. I mean, just reading that transcript, how he just could not answer basic questions. It was as if a guy was running, we talk about divine order, it was sort of like, this is owed to me, but it was also a curse. It was, and I'm just going, was he that bad at answering questions? That was just wild.
Yeah, and the Mudd interview, Roger Mudd was the CBS reporter who interviewed him, and everybody remembers that he had a bad answer to the question of why do you want to be president, which is what you're basically getting at right now.
He couldn't answer it.
Yeah, but I think his answer to that question was kind of boilerplate, and everybody talks about that answer as so terrible. If you really look at it just in isolation, it's not a great answer. It's also not a disastrous answer. What it revealed was what you're talking about, which is that he felt entitled to the job, and in the fall of 1979, just before this interview takes place, Jimmy Carter is in so much political trouble. He's 2-1. Democrats favor Kennedy over Carter. And everybody is basically saying Kennedy is going to have a cakewalk to the nomination. So Kennedy walks into this interview basically thinking, I've got this nomination in hand. I don't have to really think that hard about it. He's also being driven, as you alluded to, by the pressure from the Democratic Party to rediscover the magic of his brothers. And it's these ghosts of his brothers that are kind of hanging over him, driving him forward into something that I don't think he was really sure he wanted to do or could be good at.
Well, first of all, you'd already established, look, he didn't want to run for United States Senate.
Right.
But Dad was making what Dad said. I paid for that seat.
Right.
You're running for it.
Right.
And so here was a guy who his whole life was, the short, fat, chubby one, the one who really wasn't that smart. And it was sort of like, no, you're going to do this. You were forced into it. And so even though you reflect on him being the lying of the Senate and everything,
Because as long as he does that, the other guy will look like a jerk and he'll kind of walk to the nomination. That's sort of a paradigm for a lot of his career. He just had to show up, and even if he got ripped to shreds, like, he would kind of get there by virtue of his family and the name. And you look at that life of doing something that you're not really sure you want to do. That had to be part of why he was troubled with alcoholism and a lot of misbehavior in his private life.
And it was stunning to see how these two just did not get along.
Yeah.
And how you get this one figure who was this devout Christian, and then I'm sure he's thinking the person I'm talking to is just the paragon of evil. And then Kennedy is probably thinking, I got this self-righteous SOB who thinks he knows what's best.
Right.
And they just flat out did not like each other.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because Carter's self-righteousness still is a problem for him today. I was just talking earlier today with Jen Palmieri, who was an advisor to Clinton. We had a long conversation about a number of things, but we ended up talking about this book, and she said all of the ex-presidents really don't like Jimmy Carter. Obama, both Bushes, Clinton, none of them like him because of his self-righteousness. And that was part of why Kennedy didn't like him. Kennedy also probably just thought, I mean, we have information that tells us this, that Kennedy felt like he was out of his depth and he didn't know what he was doing. And he was he was wrecking an opportunity for Democrats to take the country in a positive direction at a time when the country really badly needed leadership.
Well, it's hilarious to me, though, when you say that, because even though Carter was very hardcore politician.
Yeah.
I've often said that Democrats have made a mistake by pushing Jimmy Carter to the side.
Yeah.
I've always believed they made that mistake because here is someone who has had an amazing post-presidency, a person who can offer a vision that is not necessarily driven by politics.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get to a second where the issue of character came up. But really somebody who can issue a clarion call where self-righteousness is important. And I think if you look at Clinton and Obama, your Democratic presidents, I think you look at folks who were deal makers, individuals who didn't necessarily have that. And I think his faith is a huge part of it.
Oh, yeah. So
I don't understand how you have a Democrat who was former president, who's a strong evangelical, and you don't use them.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's the dumbest thing in the world to me. I've never understood that.
I agree. I think we do a disservice to ourselves when we talk about Jimmy Carter in such a one-dimensional way. We've touched on his weaknesses, but as you mentioned, his post-presidency has been remarkable and exemplary. And he's done an incredible amount of good. And I think when you even talk about it in terms of electoral, pragmatic politics, let's look at 2020. Let's look at, you know, you and I have talked about this. Are there Trump voters out there that could go for a Democratic nominee? That's open to debate. But I would say that the way that Democrats have been positioning themselves on abortion of late is reducing the number of people who are in that pool of people who voted for Trump that could vote for a Democrat. Because let's face it, I grew up in a family that was largely apolitical, largely white evangelical fundamentalist, and our lack of political involvement was augmented by one issue, abortion. And that shaped our political worldview. Now, I've done a lot of work over the last few decades to become aware of the full world of politics, and I've had a lot of experience in that. But I still talk to family members who are in that world, and they're not like in the hills of Kentucky. They live in Montgomery County, Maryland, 30 miles north of here. So I think that's one issue where the Democratic Party has not done a good job on faith.
And here's where I think it comes in. And in fact, in reading this, I said anybody running for the presidency today who's a Democrat should actually be using this playbook. Here you say, Carter and his advisors discussed the need for moral leadership in the country in the wake of the Vietnam War. And then as you continue, he talks again about the idea of moral leadership with Nixon, the issue of character.
Yeah.
I read that, and that's in pages 83 to 89, and what jumped out at me was I said, if I'm running for president right now, that is exactly how I'm going to frame it with Donald Trump. That it's not even really about what you lay out here. It really wasn't even about Carter laying out, these are my policy, this is where we need to go. What he was saying is, after Nixon, character matters in the Oval Office.
Yeah.
And I absolutely saw, I was just reading it, I could literally hear a candidate in 2019, 2020 making the same argument saying, sure, you can say, oh God, I've got a great tax cut and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
But this man does not have the character to be president.
Yeah, and you know, it's an open question whether that's going to happen to me, because Priorities USA, they're a huge Democratic group. They just put out a huge polling memo this week saying we've got to focus on the economy. I agree, the economy is a big deal.
See, I think they're wrong. I think, see, this to me is where, again, if you take the self-righteousness of Jimmy Carter,
yeah.
You've got independents who are completely turned off by Trump's tweets, the sucking up to North Korean leader, all that sort of stuff like this. This is where you can make an argument that's not policy, that's not partisan,
right?
That's not left, right, red, blue,
right.
That's not south, north, east coast, west coast. The argument is simply, we need to return to a day where you actually trust what the president says.
Yeah.
Return to a day where you wake up and you don't have to ask the question, is he lying today? Where you don't have literally fact checkers going, he's about to approach 10,000 lies in this presidency. I think, again, if they read just those 6 pages and they read how Carter saw the country, I do believe where we are right now is a character, moral leadership question.
Here's where I think the Democratic Party might have a part of a challenge in getting to what you're talking about. Their coalition is two big constituencies in the Democratic coalition are upper educated, suburban whites and African Americans, right? The African American community has a long history of deep, sincere faith, largely Protestant Christian. Younger generations, maybe a little less so,
yep.
But largely still that's a big flavor of the African American community. The upper educated white suburbans, increasingly not as much religious. And so I think there's a challenge there for the Democrats.
So that's why I think it's split, though.
Yeah.
I think when you make the character argument and the moral leadership argument, you're not making a faith argument.
Okay.
What you're making is an argument that return to an America where you want your child to be proud of who is president.
Yeah.
Return to the day when, no matter if they were Republican or Democrat, you didn't wake up saying the president's a liar.
Yeah.
Return to the day where it did matter if the president slept with a porn star. See, I'm not making a faith argument.
Yeah.
I think what jumped out at me was, if you're making a moral character argument, I think what you're saying to America is, we've got to get away from what you guys did, and that is, damn a strong president of moral character like Obama, and let's elect a heathen. And I think Republicans are embarrassed by this guy.
Oh, yeah.
I think certainly independents and Democrats, women as well. I just think if Democrats try to make this a complete policy deal, you're losing the piece where people say, yes, I appreciate the tax cut. Yes, I might like this. Yes, I might appreciate these type of judges, but I simply cannot tolerate the integrity and the character of the person. I just think that that's a thing that if they would read that and understand where Carter was coming from, they would have the ability to, I think, to appeal to some people.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the questions would be how compelling and powerful that message can be without faith, which drove Carter. And it's an open question. I'm not arguing that you can't have a powerful moral message without a sort of faith component to it. I think faith component adds a lot, though.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
As well, because it serves as the foundation of who you are.
Yeah.
You going through this primary, here you got Kennedy and Carter. They're going after each other. And what was crazy to me is reading it, and Carter just dusted Kennedy. And Kennedy wouldn't give up. It was essentially him saying, I'm going to be the complete thorn in your side.
Yeah.
No matter what. Doesn't matter how bad I'm getting beat. Doesn't matter. Whatever the heck, I'm not quitting.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, one person who predicted that Carter was going to whip Kennedy was Henry Kissinger, which is kind of an interesting, little note of history. Carter certainly did things strategically to whip Kennedy, but Carter got a huge assist from the Ayatollah in Iran, because when the hostages were taken this was 3 days before Kennedy announced his candidacy. The hostages in Tehran are taken at the embassy, and overnight the Iowa caucuses, which are in January, go from Carter versus Kennedy, and now all of a sudden it's Carter versus the Ayatollah, because the voters are looking at this
rallying behind the President of the United States.
They're looking at this as, if I don't vote for Carter, then I am sort of weakening him at a time when we all need to be behind him as he goes up against the Ayatollah of Iran and the fundamentalists in Tehran who have our people in prison, basically. And so that really made it hard for Kennedy to do anything. He couldn't criticize Carter. He couldn't really talk about the hostages. He couldn't get in the news. And so I was not the best place for a celebrity politician from the Northeast anyway, especially with his background and his baggage. And that just made it really tough sledding for him.
When you take us through going through those primaries and then going to the convention, the whole reset with Kennedy, money and everything along those lines, it was compelling to see how deeply wounded Carter was and how, in many ways, he was desperate for the validation of Kennedy. He was desperate to not only say, I kicked your ass, but also he needed Kennedy to say, yeah, he beat me, and we're in this thing together. And the fact that Kennedy wouldn't give it to him. I mean, that, as you described that scene of Kennedy's speech, and then when Carter gets a nomination, and then the limo comes, and he's taking his time, and he's bringing everybody else up, and how his whole deal was, I don't give a damn about this guy who's the president.
Right. No, and one historian said it was like Kennedy had showed up at the wedding of his chauffeur with Carter, the incumbent president, who had just given his acceptance speech after winning renomination, as the chauffeur. And, you know, Carter wanted to have the pose, as you mentioned, of hands together with Kennedy. And Kennedy made him chase him around the stage for a good 5 minutes. There are conflicting reports about whether Kennedy was drunk. I've come to believe that Kennedy had definitely been drinking. Bob Shrum, who's probably a mutual friend of ours, says, maybe not, I don't know. But you're looking at me like, no. But Bob Shrum was with Kennedy, and he insists that he wasn't drunk. I've come to believe that it was probably the difference between 2 Jack and Cokes and like 5 Jack and Cokes.
Right.
You know? But yeah, I mean, it was probably the most humiliating moment of Carter's political career.
So if you think about that whole dysfunction between Carter, Kennedy, tearing apart the party, opens the door for Reagan to win.
Right.
What can Democrats today learn from this? Because when you see Clinton folks leaking stuff about Senator Sanders flying charter planes, and them still not being over that, the Sanders people still being pissed off, saying it was stolen from us, and now you have other candidates who are now running as well, and then people are going, yo, you guys, if you keep this up, you're going to guarantee this guy wins.
Right.
What do you think Democrats today, not just people who are running, but actual voters, what should they learn from what the craziness that happened between President Jimmy Carter and Senator Ted Kennedy?
Well, I think there's different lessons for voters, and there's different lessons for Democratic operatives. For the operatives, you're kind of getting to it. There's a difference between really aggressive, robust debate over where the party should be, where the country should be, the qualifications of the candidates, all that. That's all fair game. It's when you start playing dirty that you're probably crossing a line, and it's where you're putting the desire to win ahead of the good of the party and the country, maybe. And I think that's one lesson. I think for the voter, you know, it's not really that different from what I would say to them most of the time, which is keep your eye on the ball. You know, I don't think you really need to read too many stories about which operatives are signing up for who. Keep your eye on which issues you think are most important to the country, and do your homework. Look at what the candidates are saying about the top 5 issues to you. Educate yourself, because it's all out there. And then, you know, do the job you can do with your social network, with your peers, to make these issues on their radar.
Was it surprising to you that these two never really made up?
Not really. The thing that did surprise me was that when I interviewed Carter, I asked him if Ted Kennedy ever kind of got redemption, and he made a comment to me that indicated that he had come a little ways from where he was in the past, because even 8 years after that election, he couldn't say anything nice about Teddy Kennedy at the ADA convention. But he said something really nice about Ted Kennedy. He said, I don't think he needed redemption. I think he was one of the greatest senators who ever lived. And that was I don't think he could have said that 10, 20 years ago.
I still think it's amazing when you think about the political grudges and how they continue, and how even when people try to put them together, how they still never really gelled. And to me, the mistake in that is there's something bigger than you as an individual and your individual rivalry. That when you think about your stars in your party, that's where you say the good of the country must be better than our personal pettiness. And I think that that's one of the things that I think resonates today. And that is, you can be pissed with the last election,
Right.
but it's the last election.
Yeah.
It's over. If you didn't win, you didn't win. Okay? In the case of Carter, you won, but you won the primary. But you were severely wounded as a result, and you won the biggest thing of all, which was the presidency. For Democrats, you were angry and pissed off at Jimmy Carter because he didn't do this and didn't do that. But what did you end up getting? 12 years of Republican rule.
Right.
Ushered in the moral majority.
Right.
Ushered in Newt Gingrich taking down Speaker of the House Jim Wright, taking over the Republican Party.
Yeah.
And so to me, the lessons are be very careful who you try to take down today, because you can be taking down a lot more than just that person.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. You've definitely. We've both been around long enough, I think, to not be super surprised by the fact that people's egos can override their better judgment, right? I mean, it's just human nature. I think it speaks to the amount of character that's actually needed to do what you just described. And the character is needed in the candidate, and the character is needed in the staff. Because you might have a candidate with character who's got staff saying, F that guy.
Yep.
But if you've got both character or candidates and campaign staff with character, you can do the really hard thing, which is to overcome your own personal squabbles. But it's hard. It's hard.
I ask every author this: what was your wow moment in the research in this book? What was that one thing where even you were like, "Yep, wow, that's crazy"? Either I didn't know it, or it shocked you, surprised you, blew you away.
Well, I mentioned the story at the beginning. I was surprised. I was shocked at that of on the stage. I was shocked that Hunter S. Thompson called Carter one of the three meanest men that he had ever met, because that's just not how we think of Carter. I think in a more resonant way, the thing that really surprised me in a deep way was when I began to look at their backgrounds. And I saw how different they were.
Yep.
How radically different they were. And if you buy the book and you look at the photo section, the very first page of photos shows Carter at age 10 or so on his farm, no shirt, no shoes, and the picture quality is terrible. And underneath that is a picture of Kennedy at almost the same age as part of a much bigger family in London, dressed to the nines, living in J.P. Morgan's old house in London. Right? So the difference between their upbringing and the fact that they entered politics around the same time.
Right.
And then they began to kind of ascend the ladder at the same time until they finally collided in 1980. And even the collision had about 8 years, 7 or 8 years of run up to that. So that there was like this sense of fate to me that brought them together that I thought was really interesting.
All right, folks, the book is called Camelot's End: Kennedy versus Carter and the Fight That Broke the Democratic Party by John Ward. That's the book right there. So you definitely want to check it out. I probably read it in about a week. And so those of you who love politics, I think you would certainly learn a heck of a whole lot. A lot of stuff you were not aware of when you think about these seminal figures, President Jimmy Carter and, of course, the late Senator Ted Kennedy. John, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Roland.
All right.
Appreciate it.
All right, folks, I certainly hope you enjoyed this edition of Roland Martin Unfiltered here at Lakeside Golf Club for the 12th annual George Lopez Celebrity Golf Classic. If you want to support the George Lopez Foundation, please do so. You can go online and check them out, and it's all about the kids who are fighting kidney disease. All right, folks, I'll be back in the studio tomorrow in Washington, D.C. for another edition of Roland Martin Unfiltered. Be sure if you want to support us, go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. We certainly appreciate all of you who are members of our fan club. You can pay by Cash App, PayPal, or even Square as well. And so this is what we do, taking our show on the road, bringing you stuff that nobody else is bringing you. And we certainly want to thank George Lopez and the George Lopez Foundation, Linda Small, and all the folks with the foundation for making this possible. So we certainly appreciate that. All right, folks, y'all be sure to have a great day. I got to go play golf. Holla! Hey fam, want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered, the blackest show on all of digital, cable, and broadcast. Check out our audio podcast. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Press play. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. Hey fam, want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered, the blackest show on all of digital, cable, and broadcast. Check out our audio podcast. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Press play. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Hey fam, want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered, the blackest show on all of digital, cable, and broadcast. Check out our audio podcast. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Press play. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.